Ah, yes, we'll just put a mother plant out here. No big deal. Very normal thing to have in your front yard. Hello, my lovely viewers, and welcome. I am Kira, a romantic ace, and welcome to this speed build. So this is a collaboration with RissaKrolMeister over at Krolmeister Sisters and RissaKrolSims. I'll link both of those channels down below. Krolmeister Sisters is where Rissa streams with their sister Ariana. They do a lot of Nancy Drew point and clicks by Her Interactive. They also do various puzzle games and stuff as well. Lots of fun. I was there for the first bit of them furnishing the shell that I sent, the floor plan that I sent, and they've got a really fun community over there on Twitch, so I'll link the Twitch channel as well. But the idea here was that each of us would send each other a fully laid out floor plan of a house, and then we would furnish it. The only rules really being we would not add doors or windows to the one that we sent the other, and that we couldn't touch each other's walls. We could turn things into like spandrels and columns, but you couldn't just go in and delete a wall or move a wall if you decided you didn't like where it was. And so they sent me this, you know, nice demure little suburban. I sent them a Tudor cottage monstrosity that you can go over and check out. But the first thing I decided was that I wanted to kind of use some build mode items that I don't use a lot of. And although I use these cats and dogs, windows and doors on a semi-regular basis, I never use that seafoam green swatch on them. So that was like the first thing I did was go in and like, I'm gonna make this with the seafoam green swatch. And they started laughing in the chat because RissaKrolMeister is one of my mods on Twitch. And they were like, oh, you have no idea how relevant that is. And of course I didn't, because they had based this on what it turned out was their grandmother's house, which I didn't know at the time, which is, you know, kind of entertaining. Because I ended up making this in the end for a pair of grandmas who are raising their two grandkids. So, you know, without that influence of thinking that it was a grandparent's home, I ended up coming up with that. But here you can see I'm just going around putting trim around, and I ended up getting rid of that jutting trim because you can only put trim in places where you have a second story, so you can't put it on top of a first floor and, you know, like where the gabled roof is. You have to use roof trim for that. And we don't have any roof trim that really juts out the same way that that jutting trim does, so I ended up using the inlaid trim because later on I go and I apply some roof trim to those spaces to make it look like the trim continues around, even though it doesn't actually continue. But the challenge with that seafoam green swatch was actually to get a siding color that worked with it. So what I ended up using were some of the wood paneling that we got from Spa Day that came in that nice teal color, and I went, aha, yes. And then I was joking around with that pink stone from bowling night stuff, and I just ended up really liking the way it looked, so I kept it. Because by this point I still hadn't quite decided on the family that I wanted to live in here. You can see I'm going around just having a hell of a time figuring out like what fixtures I want. I end up finally just deciding, screw it, I need to pick a roof, or I need to pick a flooring color. And I really love that cats and dogs flooring, and also that jungle adventure flooring that I used on the top deck. I use it all the time, probably more than I should, but it's just got such a nice texture to it. I really, really love it. And here I'm deciding that, like, oh, they've put this back porch on as an addition. I debated whether I wanted it to look like a screened-in porch, and then I decided against it and just used matching windows to the rest of the build. But the family that I ended up coming up with for this lot was, so, like I said, a pair of two grandmothers who were raising their two grandkids, a teenage girl and a toddler girl. And you know, they're kind of a fun pairing. So one of them is a world-famous celebrity floral designer. You can actually, through gameplay, make your sim a global superstar just by being a florist, which I think is absolutely funny as hell. And then her spouse is a best-selling author. So they're doing pretty well for themselves. They're kind of outdoorsy. They like the Brindleton Bay area. It's a very nice environment for both of them. We're set kind of in downtown Brindleton Bay here on the lot that's right next door to the vet clinic, which I didn't realize this at the time, but I realized it when I went through and was playtesting and the welcome wagon showed up, because it's Brant and Brent Hecking, which are, you know, a gay male couple living nearby, and so I'm like, oh my god, just all the gays are here. It's fantastic. I love it. But here you can see I'm putting in those parenthood counters because I use those all the time. And here I was going to try to do an island in kind of a tricky way so that I could put the stove here without it looking super weird. Because we don't have stoves that don't have that control panel sticking up from the back. And I ended up not liking it with the rounded ends. It just didn't look right. I didn't end up using actual island countertops at all because it's so hard to get the stoves to sit right with that. So I ended up just doing this trick that I've done in other builds before and putting in a half wall and having the stove sit against that. That panel still does stick up over the top, but until The Sims gives us something that won't do that, that's kind of what we have to work with. I was also kind of joking around making it all seafoam green, but here we go. And then I decided that they also had a dog and a cat that they had before they got custody of their granddaughters. Their granddaughters they have custody of because their parents died in a tragic cow plant accident. And we were trying to come up with in stream how this could be an accident without, like, A, being super tragic, because I don't really like having super tragic backstories for my Sims, but also B, not demonizing the poor cow plants, because this, I started building this after we got the update that lets us name cow plants. And so, I thought to myself, well, you know, we have Peaches and Pepper the cow plant, you know, and that's how their parents died, but, like, how do we then have that where, you know, it's not really the cow plant's fault, because I am of the opinion that there are no bad cow plants. There are just bad cow plant owners. The poor cow plant just, you know, lives its life. They're just trying to live their best lives here. It's not their fault that Sims eat the cake. So what I ended up coming up with in the end, and you can actually download the full family off the gallery with the parents before they die. I could have turned them into ghosts and uploaded them, but I ended up not doing it. But here you can see I'm placing Peaches and Pepper. So here are Peaches and Pepper. They have their forever home. But what I ended up coming up with was their dad, which is the grandmother's son-in-law, was a minor crime lord. So he was like in with Nancy Landgrab and, you know, was into all these shady dealings and stuff. Like he's real good friends with Jacques Villarreal and ended up putting the kids in danger, and they were, like, the parents were not very good parents. They had negative relationships with both of their kids. The teenage girl, Kelly, really resented her dad in particular, and so basically their nefarious dealings got their kids in danger, and Peaches and Pepper, their job is to protect the children. That's what they do. That's their job. Cow plants are guardians. And so one day the parents ended up doing something that put the kids in danger, and the cow plants went, nope, we're putting a stop to this. We're going to make it so that they have to come and live with their grandmothers, which, since the one grandmother is a celebrity florist, she does have a very high gardening skill as well because she grows a lot of her own flowers. And so they just also took custody of Pepper and Peaches, and so now Pepper and Peaches have moved to Brindleton Bay and, like I said, are just living their best lives. So I decided this downstairs room was going to be the teenagers' room. I really went back and forth as to whether the downstairs room or that upstairs room with the deck was going to be the master bedroom, but I really felt like the deck was made to be a master bedroom kind of thing, right? So I ended up putting the teenager downstairs, decided that was a study that they converted into a child's bedroom because the teenager and the toddler, you know, yeah, they could room together and there's nothing wrong with that, but these kids have been through a lot. The teenager deserved her own space. You know, she's a musician, she needed space to practice and, you know, just kind of work through the whole thing of like, wow, my parents got eaten by cow plants and we've had to move schools and, you know, my parents were criminals and all of this. So I figured these grandmothers are really just trying to help these kids adjust as best they can and, like I said, just kind of live their best lives. So I also ended up, once I decided it was going to be like this pair of crafty grandmas, really leaned into using the Movie Hangout stuff pack for a lot of the furnishings. I really like that pack. The gameplay is like neither here nor there. Basically, the only gameplay that it adds is that your Sims can watch movies together in addition to watching TV. So they'll actually sit down for a set period of time, watch a movie that you pick, and then they'll either love it or they'll hate it. They can talk about it with each other. There's some interesting socials, but really it's a stuff pack, and so the stuff is what sells it. And I thought since, you know, one of them is a celebrity florist and, you know, they kind of are into that crafty thing, I decided they also craft their own candles, since we got the candle making with Eco Lifestyle. And this is going to be such a cute house to pair up with Nifty Knitting, which is coming out tomorrow for me. It's in the past for all of you. Like, you know, I realized partway through, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so good with Nifty Knitting. Like what I really want to put in here more than anything else is one of the mailboxes, because I really like the furnishings and how they all work together. And I think there's definitely going to be a spot you could sneak in a rocking chair. Like you could even just put it on this top deck if you wanted. You could definitely put in like the hanging planters and everything, but the mailbox is what I'm really missing for this build. So in my save file, it's definitely going to have some stuff for Nifty Knitting in it. The family is in the save file as well, and it was really funny because I went through and I gave them a bunch of like friendships and so forth, like relationships with other townies, including some that I've already made. And this meant that most of them had like negative relationships with people like Nancy Landgrab or Jacques Villarreal. So the grandmothers have several good friends. They've got, you know, one of them has a pristine reputation, the other one has a great reputation. Even the kids have pretty good reputations, except for the toddler, because toddlers like don't really have reputations. They're a toddler. And it's really interesting how much the Sims gameplay likes to shame you for having even just one negative relationship, because as I was playing around, because I had to play like a few different days to get Sims to kind of show up where I needed them to be and so forth, so that I could at least meet them, because then I just use cheats to set their relationship levels. And they kept getting phone calls going, hey, an acquaintance of mine told them how much they dislike you. You better be careful about that. It's not good to be disliked. And it's like, they have maybe 3 relationships that are really distinctly negative, because you do have to be pretty negative before you get out of like the acquaintances thing where it doesn't really matter that the relationship is negative. It doesn't affect your gameplay negatively in any way. But like Nancy Landgrab is one of them. They don't get along with Nancy Landgrab, for example. And it's like, okay, I get it. Nancy Landgrab is powerful, but at the same time, it's like, I would understand it if they had bad reputations, but they don't. So, and that's really funny to compare to another family from my save file where I do have a teenager with a bad reputation. She doesn't have a lot of super negative relationships, but she's got enough relationships that are just a little bit negative that I was like, yeah, she has a bad reputation. She's not a bad kid, she's just got a bad reputation, and she doesn't get phone calls like that, despite having a bad reputation. So it's like, I'm not sure I agree with that gameplay mechanic. But here I am, like I said, I wanted to use some items that I don't use a lot of, so like this bowling night clock I was kind of joking about until I decided I really liked the way that it went with all the colors and stuff. And then in the kids' room, the teenagers' room, I have that music mixing station that it's either from Get Famous or Get Together, I forget. Because I almost wanted to see if I could make them a vlogger as well, and then that didn't fit in there, so I just stuck with the music mixing station. I've never used that. I've put it in a couple builds. I know it doesn't need a chair slotted to it, which was the thing that I always thought it needed, but it doesn't. But I've never actually used it, so I don't know how it works, but I figured, yeah, the kid's into music. Yeah, she probably produces her own tracks and stuff. So I thought that was nice. And here I didn't have really a plan for this top deck, so I just put a little spot where, you know, the grandmothers can just go out and sunbathe and, you know, relax and chill and, you know, like this whole thing is just about them living their best lives. That little picture from Backyard Stuff is so nice. I used a lot of backyard stuff in this too. The really interesting thing about backyard stuff is I feel like a lot of the stuff from the toddler stuff pack was actually meant to be in backyard stuff, and I forget which one came first. But toddler stuff is actually pretty light on things for toddlers when you look at it. The things that are there for toddlers are like that building blocks table and the slide and the ball pit. All three of which are kind of also backyard items. Like, you don't put a ball pit inside the house. You don't put that little plastic slide inside the house. You put those in the backyard. And then they have some clutter items and stuff that really look like they're made for, like, backyard parties and stuff. Like, toddlers don't need paper plates. So, and, like, toddler stuff doesn't even come with a toddler bed, is the really just gobsmacking thing about it. It's toddler stuff. You would think it would come with a toddler bed. Kids stuff comes with a kid's bed, but toddler stuff didn't come with a toddler bed? So I really feel like that should have all just been part of backyard stuff, personally. I would like to see them do another pack with more stuff for toddlers and kids and even teens to do. Because, you know, the big complaint by the Sims team is that they're not going to make content for those life stages because we don't really play with those life stages, but also there's just not that much for them to do. Like, especially teens, it's like they're practically adults, so you just want to get them out of school. There's not a lot that's unique to teens that can't be done as young adults, so it's really annoying. But here I was trying to find a rug that would go underneath this double bed, and I ended up just layering 2 of the rugs from Tiny Living because they're just small enough that you can't see the edge underneath the bed. So it's like, you can't really tell. And I really love those new fabricated rugs from Eco Lifestyle. So if you haven't fabricated it for yourself, you can just, like, you know, get the recipe by talking to other makers and like, or maybe you have to unlock it by sending in a civic plan, I forget. But if you don't want to fabricate it or you're having a hard time fabricating it, you can go into build mode and do bb.show hidden objects, and then it shows up in the catalog. And I really love that for in front of doll houses, and that dollhouse in particular, because it just looks so nice and squishy. It's supposed to look like grass. And I'm like, oh, that's the perfect thing to put out in front of a dollhouse, you know? And I also love it for certain builds to put as the bath mat. So like outside your shower or tub, because I have nice squishy bath mats like that, and I really love it. So I don't know, it just looks so nice and cozy. I really love these Eco Lifestyle curtains as well. They are tied with these ones from Movie Hangout for my favorite curtains in the game right now. I really love the colors on it. I love the texture, the way they drape. They add a lot of personality to the space. You know, obviously, Movie Hangout is very heavy on personality, as you can see here, as I'm just, like, filling the house with it. It's that nice, just eclectic, almost bohemian looking. And then these blinds from My First Pet stuff that, you know, I get it. It's kind of highway robbery, but also really nice blinds, honestly. Here I am, this is on the second day, now that I've actually made the family at this point. So you're gonna see actual simoleon signs come up because I have the family placed on the lot as I'm trying to place stuff for the pets. So now that Tiny Living has come out, I think it was an update with Tiny Living, Sims only need half a tile's clearance to walk around things. So sometimes when I throw up the grid, it's to make sure that I have half a tile clearance between items so that they can actually route through it and get to things. And I did playtest this entire house. They can route to everything, they can use things, they don't throw up their hands and cry because they can't get somewhere. So, but they have a Dalmatian named Tom and a calico cat named Viola, who both ended up having their beds here in the kitchen. And now I'm just going through and cluttering up the kitchen. I use a lot of Parenthood stuff for kitchens. That little dish caddy is like my favorite thing in the game, along with that bread box, which I really like in that swatch if you actually do have kids in the house, because it looks like they painted it. Same thing with those plates, which I think you get as your kids age up if you have Parenthood. But they were just a little too big for that pantry area, so I just sized them down. But it looks like the kids, you know, made those at a pottery painting place or something. So I thought that was cute. Maybe that was one of their outings that they did either before the parents died or shortly after, as, you know, the grandmothers were like, oh, we're, you know, helping you adjust to moving houses and so forth, so let's just go do something fun as a family. We've got the cookie jar down below where the toddler can get to it, but I put the dog snacks up on top of the fridge because I'm like, it's a big Dalmatian. Tom's just gonna get into those. But I'm using the OMSP shelf, this red shelf, to do the cluttering up at that level. It's a little bit easier than raising with the 9 key, because the 9, you can raise and lower objects On a Mac on my Mac, I have to hold down Option and then raise and lower. Raise is the 9, 0 is the lower. But they raise at set intervals, so you can end up with objects either floating or you have to clip them into the surface, and sometimes it doesn't like that. But with the OMSP shelf, you can get it to pretty much sit right on top. So that's a mod that if you build a lot, I would recommend downloading. And here I'm doing this trick with the cutting boards that Evelyn does a lot. If you don't watch her build, she's got a channel on YouTube as well. And she is fantastic with the clutter. I watch her builds a lot, and she really influences how much I clutter the interiors of houses. And yeah, kitchens are probably like my favorite thing to clutter because they're pretty straightforward, whereas like bedrooms and even living rooms sometimes are hard to clutter for me. But here I'm going into these wreaths that come with seasons and laundry day because I figured, well, we've got a floral designer in the house. So the floral designer's sensibilities really kind of took over this house. There's a ton of floral arrangements and stuff in the house. I didn't go into debug and pull any of the actual arrangements that you can make just because it's kind of a pain in the ass. They go bad. You know, they do end up going off kind of like food does. So I wasn't going to like go through. Plus, at that point, I would have had to unlock live edit objects, I think is what they're in. Either that or you have to search the debug catalog with show hidden objects on. And that kind of bogs down my computer when I'm streaming. And this entire build was streamed live on Twitch over on my channel at twitch.tv/aromanticace. I build there sometimes. I don't build a lot. What I usually do there is my 100 baby challenge. So I need to get back on that bullshit. I'm on 20-some kids right now. I think like 22 or 23. But I've still got a long way to go on that, and I need to get my little butt in gear and be working on that a little bit more. But I did build the house for that, and I'm really pleased with the house that I'm using for the 100 baby challenge. I don't use those beaded curtains from City Living as much as I want to, and I thought they were going to fit in here, but it was just a little too much with those curtains, so I ended up leaving it off. But since I had that end table that's the 3 suitcases stacked on top of each other that is very clearly bisexual suitcases, I figured, yep, you know, Kelly's bi, we're just gonna throw the flag in there now, because there's no getting around it. I'm sorry, like, nobody in my save file is straight. Like, I have multiple lesbian families and a couple, so like multiple sapphic relationships and a couple of Achillean right now. I need to make some more Achillean. Achillean is male relationships, so like gay male relationship, whereas sapphic is like woman-loving woman. A little bit more inclusive than just saying gay and lesbian because bisexual people exist and pansexual people exist, but here I found this in the live edit object. So this you get in cats and dogs if you collect all of the feathers. So you can have your pets go out and hunt for you, and sometimes they'll bring back feathers. Or if you scare flocks of birds, you can pick up feathers. If you collect them all, you can make that purple owl statue. And like, I have never done it, but I saw it and I was like, again, this is a thing I don't use. Is this the family that just has a giant purple feathered owl statue in their front yard? I think they are. So you'll see me work that into the landscaping a little bit better here in a few minutes. But I'm kind of making my final choices on clutter and stuff in the house. So I'm putting in the soap dispensers on all the sinks. I don't always put toothpaste or toothbrush and toothpaste holders out. I wish we had more of those types of things. I wish we had more than one, like, on-sink soap dispenser, because the only soap dispenser clutter that we have is this one, and then also the one that mounts on the wall that comes from Get to Work, which is really nice for community lots, and I like using it. Same thing with the paper towel holder for community lots. But, like, this is the only style that we have, and it's the same thing for the toilet paper roll holders, whereas we have multiple styles of, like, not toilet paper, towel holders, and we need more of that type of stuff to make our builds just, like, look a little bit more interesting. So I would love to see that come out in the future as well, even if it's craftable items, like, you know, that would also be fine. Like, I get that we have the bar soap from Spa Day as well, but that was a long time ago. Like, just more clutter things at this point. Over here, this is some more stuff that I never use. I never use these Moschino stuff picture frames, which I think are digital frames that I think you can put multiple pictures in and it'll rotate them. Again, I've never played with them, but I was like, oh, they probably have family photos hanging up. And in my save file, I do go through usually and have them take a bunch of family photos and hang them up around the house. So I haven't done that with this family yet, but I'm going to. And here I'm cluttering up the end table with one of these little baskets that's actually from the show Hidden Objects from Jungle Adventure. That's something you can purchase from vendors in Salvadorada. And I like it because it's just the right size to kind of put lotion bottles and stuff in to kind of look like somebody is trying to contain all their clutter. So I like that for kind of bedroom areas. And I decided that the teenager collected these Void Critter cards. So one of the advantages of going into Show Hidden Objects is that you get access to most of the collection items. So like these and the snow globes and the geodes and crystals and stuff like that. The only collections that you really can't complete by going into debug are the fish, because I did try this once. You can find all the mounted fish, but if you put them in your Sims inventory, it won't show them as actually completing a collection, unlike the rest of the objects. So like the snow globes and the Void Critter cards and everything else, you can complete collections that way, and I have done that in houses. I did that for the Vitor's house, actually. I built a new house for Caleb and Lilith Vitor, and I decided, you know, well, what do vampires have to do with their eternity except collect things? And so there were multiple complete collections in that house. And yeah, I just went through and had them put everything in their inventories and then actually replaced the house because it was going to be a pain in the ass to put everything back. But yeah, just gave them complete collections. So now they have like multiple plaques saying that they completed these collections and stuff. It's really fun. Here I'm putting some toys out as well to kind of like that little plushie from the free holiday pack to kind of look like a bath toy, and then just giving the child the Kulala light, which that's still the only one that will help stop them from like getting nightmares and the monster under the bed, which is really annoying because we have these other sconces that look like they're supposed to be kids' night lights, and they don't actually do the same function. So all of my kids' bedrooms end up looking pretty samey because I kind of have to work that light in somehow. So that's kind of disappointing. But here I am just throwing a bunch of toys on the ground, which your Sims will go in and clean up if you're not careful. So like when I go in to take screenshots in these things, I have to turn autonomy off for the Sims so that they don't just go in and clean up all my clutter before I'm done taking screenshots. And putting the little growth chart up as well, and these little pictures of different pets and stuff that they've had over the years. I figure that little triptych from kids room stuff is also very nice. And like at this point, I'm just scrolling through these different wall decorations, trying to find something just to kind of make this hallway a little bit less boring. I hadn't gotten quite yet to put a plant, but you know, here we are, just finally just like throwing a couple plants in different places, just to liven things up a little bit more, as if there's not enough plants in this house already with all of these floral wreaths and stuff that I'm putting up. But I also really love that floor lamp, that yellow floor lamp in this living room. That is one of the craftable items from Eco Lifestyle as well, and that's probably my favorite floor lamp for like interiors right now, because it's a really nice sleek shape and I really like it because it doesn't look out of place in a contemporary build, and it doesn't look out of place in a more old-fashioned build either. Like it looks kind of 70s to me, so that's also a style that just like kind of tends to come back. But yeah, Here I am just kind of making my final check, seeing if there's anything else I want to do on the interior, and remembering that I needed to get rid of that default roof texture. I really love those power shingles from Eco Lifestyle. I think they look really nice, and they're just really convenient if you don't want to put solar panels and stuff up, but you still want to have that like little bit of power boost, so that you can sell some power back to the city on your bills. That's a real quick and easy thing to add. And now I'm finally onto some of the landscaping, the terrain paint. I kind of picked up the trick of layering terrain paint and putting it around the foundation and stuff to kind of set things down. I think I got that from Simlessy, who is on The Sims Sparked as I recall. I haven't seen the most recent episodes, so no spoilers, but I really love her landscaping and her attention to detail as well. So I'm laying in these like flower beds and putting in some trees from cats and dogs and setting them in with that that terrain paint. I also, if you go over it with that scratchy and patches terrain paint at the edge of your flower beds, it'll make it look less, the edges look less harsh. And here I am realizing that since I went in from live mode, it makes the colors of the plants all wrong because I was in early spring. So I ended up just backing out to the main menu, or not to the main menu, just to manage worlds, and then going back in from not like playing the household, but just clicking on the lot and then clicking the build by icon. And that'll bring you back in. You'll still be playing with the family's money, but you'll be playing in kind of the Sims default, which is that high summer that the Sims that the Sims will be in if you don't have seasons. So that makes building a little easier once you're trying to like get the landscaping to look good. And I thought about going into show live edit objects and getting the stuff that actually matched what was in the world, but the show live edit objects don't play very nicely next to foundations anymore. It used to be that they were actually a little bit better than the objects from the actual build by catalog, but since the update where we can put build by objects right up against the foundation, it seems to have broken that for the live edit objects, which is a little disappointing because the majority of live edit objects are either free or a lot cheaper than the ones from the regular build by catalog. Like the rocks, for instance, are 4 simoleons instead of like 120, but there wasn't really anything I could do about it. And I thought those orange wildflowers looked really nice with the teal siding anyway. And here I am putting in just a nice little back patio, setting it in with some terrain paint. And I'm trying to decide where Peaches and Pepper want to live, and I decided that direction was a little bit better view and also gave me a little bit more room for this backyard garden that I figured the floral designer grandma would have. With Patchy to help, of course. So we have Patchy, Pepper, and Peaches all living in the back garden, which I thought was just absolutely adorable. And I'm giving them a fire pit as well. At first I thought I was only going to give them a fire pit and not also a grill, but I do change my mind a little bit later. But I figured they were the types that would have these little folding chairs because, you know, they've got the kids and they're kind of fun people anyway. Gave them a little picnic table, which is mostly to have a place to put the food. So again, you see here I dropped in this this barbecue grill, which again is from toddler stuff. Toddlers don't use grills, Sims team. Why is the grill part of toddler stuff? That doesn't make sense. That's not what a toddler needs. That's backyard stuff. So again, I really feel like 90% of what is in toddler stuff needed to be in backyard stuff. It's so weird. But I'm finally moving on to some actual lighting design. So right now I just have those super subtle saucer lights dropped in. And this hanging fixture that I use in the back is from bowling night stuff. I don't know what it has to do with bowling because it's a very barnyard looking thing to me. I grew up on a ranch and we had some fixtures that looked like that. But, you know, sure, whatever, I guess it goes. Again, from toddler stuff, these fairy lights, which are gorgeous, but again, not something toddlers need. They're a backyard thing. Why is that not part of backyard stuff? I do not understand. It is the weirdest fucking thing. But I like these little lanterns as well for just kind of spicing the place up. I thought of using the ones from Perfect Patio, but I didn't want to, I think that would have been the only thing I used from Perfect Patio in this build, and I didn't want to just bring in another pack just for one item, because this is on the gallery if you want to download it, if you want to download my final furnishing of this. Trying to sneak a little lamp for the teenager to read by onto that as well. And I thought about doing kind of a fun light fixture in here, but then I figured, oh, well, you know, this is probably just the light fixtures that came with the house. So I ended up putting in just those regular kind of boring looking lights, except for in these places where I wanted pendant lights. So I did these ones from Cats and Dogs, and then in the kitchen I do the mason jars because I can't not. They are perfect kitchen lights to me. I do end up changing my mind on these like regular overhead light fixtures a little bit later when I remember the ones from Eco Lifestyle, because they've got leaves on them and we have a floral designer in the house, so obviously that's what we go with. But in some of these places, all I did was just make the super subtle saucer light even smaller, because even though that's the size that the regular subtle saucer goes down to, when you enlarge and shrink objects using the square bracket keys, you can then make that super subtle saucer light even smaller, and if I can get a light to be 1 pixel wide, then I will do it, because I don't like having them in my way while I'm playing, and that's also why I sized down those big leafy globes from Eco Lifestyle. And here I am just trying to kind of get over my 4 corners syndrome with landscaping, so I have a real tendency to only put trees and shrubs and stuff like in the 4 corners of the lot or up against the house. So here I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to put some trees and so forth on the sides as well. So I'm using these aspen trees as just kind of privacy fence, because I'm from Colorado originally and they just grow really nicely as privacy hedges here, because they just grow so fast. And this final thing, I found this this frog fountain, which I think is from Backyard Stuff. And I had that little empty space there, and I was like, what goes there? And I'm like, are these the people who would have a frog fountain? And then I remembered we have a giant purple owl. And I was like, yes, yes, these are absolutely the people who would have a frog fountain. So you can see I'm just blending it into the terrain with some foliage around it. I love the fact that the hosta shadows are so sharp, because it actually did some terrain painting for me. It makes it look like I've put terrain paint under there when I actually didn't. So that ends up being real convenient for me. But now we're on to the screenshots, so thank you so much for watching. Please do give this a like and comment and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Do go check out Rissa's build as well. Catch you later.